Do you think that women can run defense companies better than men, or they can run all companies better than men?
I would just say, David, it's a team sport. It isn't all about me.
Donald Trump sent out a tweet saying that your biggest product, the F-35, was too expensive.
I personally engaged, my team engaged, to have a chance to have a dialogue with him.
What's so unique about the F-35?
It is the most advanced fighter in the world.
You were recently voted the 22nd most powerful woman in the entire world.
I get a note from my brother that said, well, why was Oprah higher than you or something like that, but you know.
Okay.
Would you fix your tie, please?
Well, people wouldn't recognize me if my tie was fixed, but okay. Just leave it this way. All right. I don't consider myself a journalist, and nobody else would consider myself a journalist. I began to take on the life of being an interviewer, even though I have a day job of running a private equity firm. How do you define leadership? What is it that makes somebody tick? Since you've been the CEO, the stock has gone up roughly 330%. The market capitalization is up roughly 280%. Another company that you compete with, General Dynamics, has a female CEO as well, and their stock is up about 250% since she became the CEO. That's Phoebe Novakovic. Do you think that women can run defense companies better than men, or they can run all companies better than men?
I'm just looking at the audience, how many women are out there clapping, but David, I would just say, David, it's a team sport. It isn't all about me on the performance of our company, but I'm really proud about what our team has been able to accomplish over the last 6 years. I'm in my 6th year as CEO.
So when you walk into the shareholders' meetings, do they give you a standing ovation? It must be pretty happy.
We have some happy shareholders, yes, but they always, keep a beat on us to make sure that we're constantly creating value. So it's what have you done for me lately?
Okay. So, during the transition of the President of the United States, Donald Trump sent out a tweet saying that your biggest product, the F-35, was too expensive. And I think you were out of the country at the time?
I was in Israel, where we were delivering their first 2 F-35s.
So what was your reaction to the President of the United States tweeting that you were charging the U.S. government too much?
Well, first of all, we needed to get those aircraft delivered, and one of the most interesting thing was that Prime Minister Netanyahu, he was at that event, and he asked me about the fact that our new president was going to get a better price on those aircraft, and maybe he should get a rebate on the ones that we were delivering. So that presented a bit of a challenge, but what was important was to recognize what our president-elect was communicating. I mean, he was trying to communicate to the American people that he was going to get good deals on the equipment that he purchased, and that he was going to increase defense spending, but he was going to make sure that he spent the taxpayers' dollar wisely. And so I personally engaged, my team engaged, to have a chance to have a dialogue with him.
So you did give him a little discount?
We drove the price down. Yes, we got the deal done, and we did it in an accelerated fashion, and he definitely had an influence on that.
Now, since he's been president, the defense budget is now higher than it's ever been. I think when you count everything, over $700 billion annually. So is this a great time to be a defense company CEO?
Well, let me just put it in perspective for you. We're certainly encouraged by the fact that our country is now spending more on defense. But if you just sort of look back over the last few years, we're playing catch up in a large way. I mean, certainly want to maintain our technological superiority over our adversaries or over the potential adversaries. What it's meant for industry is that we managed through that downturn, just like any well-managed company, but we didn't invest at the level that we would have in terms of innovation, in terms of other areas of the business, because we were in a down cycle. Now with the up cycle, it's time for us to really bring forth the innovations and continue to spend the efforts that we can to align with the priorities of our customers.
So do you need a security clearance, and how long does it take to get one of those?
Well, you know, 60,000 of our employees have security clearances, so it's a very important element of our business. I personally have to have certain, we have some sensitive and classified information that I need to be briefed on, so I have the appropriate clearance associated with that.
So let me talk about your background. You grew up in Kansas, and your father died when you were 9 years old, and you had 4 siblings, and how did your mother support 5 children?
Well, it was tough, frankly. I mean, my father was, he was with the Department of the Army, and my mother was the at-home mom with 5 children, and it knocked the props out of, you know, what was, we were not, you know, we were average family, but set us back a lot. But I give great credit to my mother, who raised 5 children on her own, and she just passed away a couple of years ago at 97, so I mean, incredibly life that she had. And
She was from
taught
Alabama?
us, she was from Alabama, but she taught us the value of a dollar. You know, we had to learn how to economize at a very young age. She'd send us in to pay the power bill, the electric bill. She just got her kids out and said, you've got to learn how to do these things because you've got to be, it taught me to be very self-reliant, I would say.
Well, I was told that she used to say to you, go to the grocery store, here's $5 and bring back $7 of groceries.
Yes, that's true. That's very true.
So,
learn how to economize. So I learned early how to economize, yes.
Okay, so you went to University of Alabama, and did you get a scholarship and you didn't have to work?
Oh, no, I didn't have a scholarship. I worked nights. I worked on what was called the graveyard shift, so to speak, from 11 at night to 7 in the morning, and then I went to class from 8 to 1 or 2, and then I'd sleep unless I had a date, and then I'd go right back to work and without sleeping, because you can do that when you're 18 or 19 years old. But yes, I worked full-time, paid my own way through school, finished in 3.5 years, and you know, you do what you had to do. So
Okay. So after you graduated, did you say, I want to be the CEO of Lockheed Martin, or what did you say?
No, I started looking for a job. I took a job as an economist here in Washington with the Bureau of Labor Statistics out of college. They were in the midst of redoing the producer price index. It was a good job for a grad student to come in. And so I actually started my career here. 4 years later, we looked for the next position, and I interviewed at several companies, one of which was Lockheed in Marietta, Georgia, and started there as a senior industrial engineer.
So when you went to Marietta, Georgia, you worked your way up. You had, I think, 22 different leadership positions. So you must have been moving around a lot.
I was in Marietta for about 13 years. 18 months in, I was promoted to supervisor in industrial engineering, and then about the 2-year mark, I was put on a general management development program, and great credit to a sponsor that he put me forward for the program. So I spent 2 years rotating around the company, and at the end of the 2 years, I was a manager over all of our production estimating and budgets.
Now, at one point, your husband was unemployed, and he got a job interview with a company, and what company was that?
Yeah, he surprised me a bit. His company went out of business, and so he was out looking for a job. We had a 5-month-old baby, so we were very much hoping he'd find a job. And it was a tough labor market at the time, but he came home one day and he said, okay, I got a job. And I said, where? And he said, at Lockheed. And I went, what? You're at Lockheed? Oh, sorry. I said, what? Why my company? You know, but it just turned out he went to work in the finance department. We didn't really cross paths. I was running industrial engineering by that time. But it's interesting, for about 5 years, he retired from Lockheed after 5 years.
So you have given him a lot of credit for what you've been able to achieve, because you might describe, after he retired, he took on the role that, you know, many people would say a woman might have normally taken on, or the wife, and he took on that traditional role. Is that fair to say?
Yes, I say he retired. I mean, our kids were 3 and 6, 2 boys, and we moved from Marietta, Georgia, to Fort Worth, Texas, because my job moved us. And so at that time, you know how stressful it is to have a couple of young children at home. And so I said, well, why don't we try you working from home for a year? And we just never changed the model. So he became the at-home dad. He was the coach. He was the scout leader. He went on the field trips, and he managed that because I traveled a lot in my job. And we were maybe a new age family back then in the way that we worked, but it worked for us. And today our kids are in their 20s, and they're off doing their thing. And but when I said he retired, he basically was that 5-year mark. He he got a retirement check from Lockheed Martin not long ago. So he's 5 years, right?
So I guess he's happy with the shareholder performance as well.
Yes, he is.
It costs a lot of money to make the Marine One because you've got to have all kinds of security things in there.
That's right. You know, it's based on this S-92, which is a great commercial helicopter. If you're interested in a helicopter, David, I'd suggest you look at it.
Maybe get something good, get a good deal. Do you get a discount if you buy two or something? No?
We can do a deal.
Let's talk a moment about the product I mentioned earlier. They're fighter jets. Now, I've known for a long time there's an F-14, F-15, F-18, there was an F-22, and then you'd come up with something called the F-35. What happened between 22 and 35?
Well, the fact is that aircraft are not numbered by Lockheed Martin. I mean, the U.S. government determines what the number is. So an F standing for a fighter, a B for a bomber, you know, the terminology is kind of general, and usually it is sequential. We won the contract with our X-35, which was the experimental, you know, you named them with an X or a Y if they were experimental or a prototype. So we had named our offering in this competition. But when they announced the winner, Lockheed was the winner, and the Secretary of the Air Force said the F-35, and we were all shocked because we thought it was going to be the F-23. So once he named it, that's what number it became.
You didn't want to tell him he made a mistake, I guess, since he just awarded the contract. But so in the history of our country, this is the biggest defense contract ever, tens of billions of dollars, I assume. Why does it cost that much to make these planes, and what's so great about this plane? What's so unique about the F-35?
The F-35A, which is your conventional variant of the aircraft, was priced at $94.3 million. And we're on a path to drive that down to $80 million by 2020. Think about that. You know, you think about if you fly, maybe you fly a Gulfstream or something like that. Think about what you paid for that, and think about the most sophisticated jet fighter in the world that might cost $80 million. I mean, that's pretty remarkable in my mind. It is the most advanced fighter in the world, so it is basically a force multiplier. It's a fabulous aircraft, and I don't have to tell you that. Talk to some of the pilots that fly it.
The SR-71 was a very famous plane that I think now is in the Air and Space Museum of the Smithsonian. It went at, I think, 6 times the speed of sound or something like that.
3 times, yeah.
Very high. There was a rumor in the defense press somewhere that you're making an SR-72. So can you tell us right now, is that true?
You know, we are working on hypersonics, and hypersonics would be something over Mach 5. We're doing work in that technology, and it's important technology. So that's probably all I'm going to say about it.
Okay. All right. Okay. Let's talk a moment about artificial intelligence. Presumably, that's going to be very important for defense contractors as it is for other companies.
Well, it's a very important area that we're investing in. We think our customers are looking for solutions in that, to use that technology. But in artificial intelligence, you can think about, we're working on a helicopter that will be unmanned, so that's an opportunity.
Unmanned helicopter.
An unmanned helicopter. We have other unmanned vehicles that we have, but that autonomy and using the artificial intelligence for actually flying the helicopter.
What's the price for the unmanned is a little bit. Well, all right, so unmanned helicopter, that sounds pretty novel.
But even in the cockpit of our aircraft, you know, it's using the artificial intelligence by fusing information in such a way that the pilot doesn't have to, you can't, the human mind just can't move at the same speed as what you can get through that computing power, and so they can make the right decisions to deal with the situation. And we have such things as collision avoidance. So even on our F-16s, and we'll be putting this on our F-35, we have technology there through artificial intelligence that if a pilot doesn't realize that they're about ready to hit the ground, this aircraft will take control and avoid. We've already saved 6 pilots' lives with that type of technology. So that's just a few examples of how we apply the artificial intelligence.
Now, one of your other products is a helicopter. You bought Sikorsky Helicopter from United Technologies.
Correct.
Why did you buy it? And are they making the Marine one, which is the President's helicopter, and how much does that cost?
You're into the prices, aren't you, David?
Well,
I mean, I tell you.
I was trying to get a, I'm always negotiating for a good deal.
I
But,
see, okay, all right. Well, first of all, yes, we bought Sikorsky. It's been doing business with them for over 40 years. And so when the opportunity came up, we took the opportunity to buy the company. Great integration into our company. It brings a Black Hawk helicopter, it brings a CH-53K helicopter for the Marine Corps, and as you mentioned, the Marine One. I'm happy to say that that program is on schedule and on cost in producing that for,
but it
for
costs
the
a lot
President.
costs a lot of money to make Marine One because you've got to have all kinds of security things in there.
Yes.
So it's not something you can sell to any other country, I assume. So you only make, 23 of them you're going to make or something like
Yes, that's right. Mhm.
that? And when are they going to be available?
I think it's 2019 or so that they'll come forward.
So-
But I was going to mention to you, it's based on this S-92, which is a great commercial helicopter. If you're interested in a helicopter, David, I'd suggest you look at it. I mean, I think they're only around, $35, $40 million. I mean, I'm sure you could do that.
Negotiate. Maybe get something good, get a good deal. Could you get a discount if you buy two or something? No?
We can do a
Okay.
deal.
When you started out, were you often the only woman in the room at Lockheed?
I was. But after that, once you're contributing and you're part of the team, it was no longer a factor.
You were recently voted the 22nd most powerful woman in the entire world. Did you say I should be higher, or did you say I should be, that's pretty high?
I get a note from my brother that said, well, why was Oprah higher than you or something like that, but
It doesn't, okay. What's it like to be the CEO of our nation's largest defense contractor? You get about 70% of your revenue, I think, from the U.S. government. How much of your time do you have to spend with the U.S. government? How do you spend your time, let's say in a typical week, percentage time?
I would say somewhere between 60 to 70% of my time is with the strategy of the business, the customers, and engagement around the world, the traveling around the world on the customer side of the business. Because it's important in my role to be out meeting with not only our congressional leaders and our government leaders to make sure we're aligned with what their needs are and their priorities, but I travel a lot outside of the United States. 30% of our business is outside of the United States with governments around the world.
You were recently voted the 22nd most powerful woman in the entire world, not just business, but everything. So when you saw that, did you say I should be higher, or did you say I should be, that's pretty high? I mean, and how does it feel to be the 22nd most powerful female in the entire planet of 3.6 billion women?
I don't focus on it that much, David. I mean, I get a note from my brother that said, well, why was Oprah higher than you or something like that, but
it doesn't, okay.
But that's not something I focus. There's lots of lists. I mean, it really comes down to having the privilege of leading a national asset and a company that's doing some of the most important and interesting work in the world.
When you started out, were you often the only woman in the room at Lockheed?
I was, yes.
And so was that intimidating, or was it kind of thing where you said, I can show them I'm better than them, the men?
I think it's like any team you come into, you have to establish your credibility, recognizing that I was a different gender, so maybe the first moment I was different in that sense. But after that, once you're contributing and you're part of the team, it was no longer a factor for me, at least in through my career. But what I'll tell you is really positive is that today, 22% of our leaders are women. 25% of our workforce are women. So the pipeline of women, it's no longer there's only one woman in the room. We have many women leaders in the room, and it's, we've come a long way on the pipeline. Back 35 years ago, there weren't as many women coming out of engineering and other professions to come into the workforce, just as the case was for a customer. But you look at our customer today, look at our military services, how many women are involved, how many men and women, but women are in uniform and in leadership positions. It's just a pipeline issue, and we're always working on that pipeline to get more women.
Okay, and what do you do for relaxation? Are you an exercise person, or are you a traveler, or sports, or whatever?
I like to play golf. My husband and I like to get out and play some golf as relaxation. I like to travel. I mean, our family gets together and travels. I travel a lot for the job, probably 40, 50% of my time. I travel on a business travel, but one of the things we really enjoy is getting together as a family to travel, and always try to create some fun travel that our kids will find. As long as mom and dad pays for it and it's fun, they'll come.
Some people say that the higher a handicap of a CEO, the better the stock will perform. If it's a low handicap, that means the CEO is spending too much time playing golf. So
You're not going to ask me my handicap, are you, David?
I assume what your handicap is. Are you not a scratch golfer? I
No
assume?
way. No. I don't play enough for that.
Okay. And today, but it sounds it must be pretty low. So you can beat your husband, or is he better than you, or?
No, well, he's better than me, but I always remind him that there's the average for women and there's the average for men, and so as long as I can
Okay.
be.
And if he has a close putt, do you just give it to him, or just make him put it out? No? So today, what is the biggest challenge the U.S. defense industry has?
Well, the challenge that we have is really the challenge our customers have. I mean, we have an environment where the threats today are so difficult around the world. The global security environment is so unpredictable and is changing so rapidly. So you have the need for solutions to address that and to stay ahead of the threat and stay ahead of the adversaries. At the same time, we have constrained budgets and the budget pressures that we faced over the last several years, and maybe we're having to spend money on near-term getting things back up to readiness instead of investing in what we need to address the power competitions that we have out there with our adversaries. So that then in turn is a challenge for industry, because if you haven't been investing along the way, we've got to move with speed while at the same time driving costs down.
And what about cyber warfare? That must be an important part of your business now.
Is.
How do you make certain that our enemies around the world aren't trying to get your secrets?
Well, they are trying to get our secrets. This is a constant threat that a company like ours and many companies have in the U.S. Of other countries trying to get at our secrets. And we take it very seriously because we know that we are a target and government customers are a target. So we've invested a lot in the technologies to protect that. But I think it's a constant, these threats are advanced and they're asymmetric and they're constantly changing, and it's really important for us to stay on top of that and keep investing in it.
I mentioned earlier, since you became the CEO, your stock is up. If I bought some stock tomorrow, would I also see a very significant gain in 4 or 5 years, or you think the prices are already so high for the defense stocks?
Well, David, I'm not going to advise you on the stock price today. I think you're really good at that.
Okay.
But I would tell you this, for our company, we are always focused on creating shareholder value. So just know that's our commitment,
Okay.
and we're going to drive the company for growth and for innovation and for shareholder
Okay.
value.
Well, as long as you're the CEO, I'd probably be happy to be an investor, but how long might you be the CEO? Do you have any plans? If the President of the United States called you and said, I'd like you to be Secretary of Defense or something like that, would you entertain that, or you're going to stay where you are for a while?
Well, in our company, I feel very privileged. I love the work that we do. The team of remarkable people that I work with that have the highest integrity. They are so dedicated and so talented. I love working at Lockheed Martin, and I serve at the pleasure of the board of directors. So how long I work will be up to them. But today I'm really enjoying the work that I'm doing, and I have no intention of stepping down from my role.
All right. Whenever you do step down, at some point, you might step down at some point, 10 years, 15, 20 years, would you consider the higher calling of private equity?
As I told you, I have a passion for business. I might very well consider
All right.
that, David.
Well, whenever you do step down, please let me know, and
Okay.
happy to talk to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.